first of all, most people don't know that China does not call it the Korean War. It is the, I believe they call it the victory of the war to resist U.S. aggression and aid Korea.
Exactly. Yeah.
And so you had Russia involved in this meeting. You had, and it seemed like there was an intense emphasis on sovereignty and almost a negation. You had Antony Blinken say, you need to China, you need to make sure DPRK, North Korea, is controlled, do something about this or else. And these countries came together and said, no, we're not we're not into that. We are friends and we're working
But
together. What was your take on the meeting?
no wonder think tanks are already freaking out complete. I was reading before talking to you, I was reading one of those idiots at Yale basically saying that we are we are deeply worried about the China-Russia DPRK alliance. You ain't seen nothing yet because it hasn't even started. But look, but this was huge in so many levels, including economically, geoeconomically. That's very, very important. Of course, Shoigu received as Mick Jagger, predictable. Huh? Meetings with Minister of Defense, a special meeting with Kim Jong-un, etc. So obviously bearing messages straight from Putin. And this informal alliance is already on the go. There's no question about that. It not only has to do with military exchanges and, let's say, expanding the Russia-China strategic partnership on a military weapons level to the absolutely impressive North Korean industrial military complex, and very effective. So, they're getting closer and closer. They have a closer interaction. But also geoeconomically, this is the Russian master plan, incorporating North Korea into the integration of the Russian Far East, both Koreas, and of course, all the way towards Eurasia, Central Eurasia, and beyond. That's something that has been discussed years ago already, and it will be discussed again this year at the Eastern Economic Forum in Vladivostok in September. I plan to go to the one this year. One of the key reasons is that I want to see what they are discussing about integration of the Koreas with the Far East. This is a major, major, major story, because what the Russians want to do is they are investing in the Arctic Silk Road as much as the Chinese. The Arctic Silk Road is another branch of the Belt and Road Initiative for the Chinese. So we have the Russians and the Chinese converging on, let's say, developing the Arctic Silk Road. The Russians want to integrate both Koreas to the Russian Far East. And of course, they can use what? Once again, very, very important, Eurasia Economic Union. And the column that I was writing before talking to you, one of the key points of the column is that there's a strong possibility that this could all start with a free trade agreement between the Eurasia Economic Union and the DPRK. This will be a way to have investment, loans, grants, productive investment, etc., by the 5 members of the Eurasia Economic Union in the DPRK, and they can buy DPRK products. Don't forget that they manufacture. When I was in North Korea 10 years ago, oh my God, even more than 10 years ago, they manufacture they are self-sufficient in almost everything. So they cannot sell their products abroad because of those horrendous American sanctions. They basically cannot trade with anybody. For instance, they have a trade office in Bangkok, in Thailand, which I visited years ago, same thing. But it's very tiny. It's just 5 diplomats, etc. And they are very constrained in what they can trade with Thailand, which is it's considered a friendly nation for the DPRK. So it's very complicated. So if you have the institutional weight of the Eurasian Economic Union behind it is much, much easier. And obviously, Russia and Kazakhstan, the two main powers of the Eurasian Economic Union, are interested. And this will allow the progressive integration of the DPRK with the Russian Far East. Very, very important, which will, okay, very optimistically, but this is something that was discussed in Vladivostok in the past. And the project is, it's dormant at the moment, but will be resuscitated, is to build a Trans-Korean railway and link that with the Trans-Siberian, which is a mega win-win for everybody concerned. Because then we're going to have South Korea, North Korea, the Russian Far East integrated into the great Eurasian market directly, without depending on any sort of American blockade anywhere. Inland, South Korea, North Korea, Russian Far East. The border is very, very close. Russia, Chinese and Russia, North Korean border. So this is something that we'll be discussing in Vladivostok this year, for sure. So that was discussed this week in Pyongyang. And of course, in terms of the Russian master plan to integrate North Korea into Eurasia-wide development, it was enormous. And I would say the geoeconomic significance is going to be, further on down the road, even more important than the geopolitical interaction, of course, and the military interaction of all that. So anybody with we still have a brain in the beltway, then when they look at this picture, they have to be terrified. Because if this happens, even in the short term, if there is progress in different fronts in the short term, it turns the balance of power in the Asia-Pacific completely upside down. And there's nothing that Quad, AUKUS, and all that bullshit can do about it. Forget it. This will be different. This will be a close geopolitical, geoeconomic, and military integration of Russia, China, and North Korea.
That's huge. I mean, that's huge.
Okay, you're talking about huge. That's huge.
Huge. That is huge. The more integration, the more integration that occurs too, it does lead to this question of, well, because this is what North Korea, DPRK, has wanted since the beginning, and South Korea at various stages, of course, of its very complicated and unfortunate development in many instances, reunification. I mean, that the more that these countries, the more that the DPRK is able to also be open to the world and be more connected in this way that you described, the more possible that becomes. It just you can't avoid it.
You can avoid it, exactly.